inspiring you to set the marketplace ablaze in partnership with an awesome and limitless God. This is the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast, and this isn't business as usual. Here's your host and Chief Fire Igniter, Shae Bynes.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. This is your host, Shae Bynes, and our goal here is to inspire you to operate your business completely yielded and in partnership with our awesome and limitless God. Being a kingdom-driven entrepreneur is not the same thing as being a Christian who happens to be a business owner. A kingdom-driven entrepreneur is motivated by seeing an increase of the kingdom of God through the work they do in business, and they're propelled forward by operating from the truth of Matthew 6:33. They seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, knowing that all things will be added. So that's why we're here, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. My guest today is a returning guest, Andrew Simpson, owner and chief vision officer of Players Fitness and Performance, also known as PFP. Now, when he joined me first on the show, he shared a story of how he went from personal fitness trainer to reluctant fitness business owner with no plans or expectations for growth. But much to his surprise, his business grew to 22 team members, hundreds of clients, and they found themselves in the middle of the biggest growth they'd ever experienced. Now, I asked Andrew to come back because I wanted to hear about what he's been learning as he's been stewarding this business growth and the unanticipated expanded vision that he had received from God. So you'll hear about how he has been growing as a leader, how he is stewarding kingdom culture for his staff, as well as the young athletes that he and PFP are called to serve as a company. So listen in and enjoy this great conversation with Andrew Simpson. Andrew Simpson, PFP, back in the house on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. What's going on, Andrew?
What's up, Shae? It's great to be back.
I was pondering on who are some of the folks that I've talked to over the years that I would think would be really fun to have an update chat with, as I'm doing a lot of these final episodes. I don't know if you knew that my time as host of the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast is coming to a close pretty soon, but you were on that list. I was like, I got to talk to Andrew and see what's going on, So I'm glad to have you back. I looked it up right before we hit record. We spoke on this podcast September of 2021.
That is mind blowing.
Does that feel like a century ago at this point?
Yeah, it really does. Time has flown, man. It shows how busy we've been and hopefully productive too. But yeah, it feels like a century ago and it feels like just a couple months ago we talked. So the fact that it was a year and a half almost, it's
kind of wild.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so now for those who don't know what PFP is, just give us a rundown, and then we're going to talk about what we talked about a little bit in 2021 and the journey since then and where we are now.
Yeah, so I'm an accidental gym steward. Don't consider myself an owner. God owns it. I just got to manage it. And PFP, it stands for Players Fitness and Performance. We started out in 2014 on a mission to help student athletes get bigger, faster, and stronger. At least that's what we thought we were called to do, until after we opened our doors, we realized that the challenges that our student athletes and our youth were facing went far, far deeper than just the need to get fast and strong and get a college scholarship. So now we've really taken it and making it our mission to help them not just with their physical game, but their mental game, emotionally, which is where they need it now more than ever.
Yes.
And then part of our mission is obviously to help them feel the love of God when they come in the gym. And so it's a spiritual growth and development journey for some of them as well.
I love it. And the last we spoke, so I remember because, we go through COVID and all the gyms were closed. And then in the midst of the season where all the gyms are closed, God gives you a vision to expand. To expand by opening up another location. So you had just had the I think in 2021, around that time, you were just kind of on the other side of the vision of that, and you had a really thriving first location. So things were kind of going pretty smoothly there.
Yeah. Over COVID, every gym was struggling to stay afloat, and we just continued trying to show up and serve our people. And so over COVID, we saw our gym grow, our community grew. God added to the number, right? And so in March of 2020, March of 2020, that's when COVID hit, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yep. And so March of 2021, the following year, we tripled the size of our facility. We expanded big time, and we took that leap. And so that's what happened. Yeah.
That's wild. And so now you shared with me that just 2 weeks ago, you opened up the second location?
Yeah. So 2021, we made a huge expansion. And then, 2 weeks ago, we opened up a second facility. And so now we've got a team about 30 minutes away from our first location in a place called Eldersburg, Maryland. The team is out there trying to be the lighthouse in that community, bring in kids. We do adults as well. And so it's a whole family affair. Come in, get fit, get your mind right, get your body right, get your soul right. And so, it's been pretty neat to watch the vision unfold. And it blows our mind every step of the way because we're like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. And it's been a fun ride.
That's so good. So, I'm going to get all in your business, the behind the scenes adventure that you've been on with God as a kingdom driven leader in this business. So talk me through some of the, you can call it highlights and lowlights that stretched you, that you learned from. Talk me through some of those in the midst of, going from, you've got this you have this thriving gym right, in the midst of COVID. Then you have vision of expansion, which meant you had to grow as a leader in order to go facilitate an expansion. And then God's calling you to then also bring this message out. So you're going to have to even pull above, being an operator in the gym so that you can go out with this message and help youth in another capacity. Right. Mm-hmm. So talk me through this leadership journey that you've been on. How's God been stretching you? What's been going on?
I think, 4 years ago, I thought that I was a way better leader than I actually was. The leadership journey that God has had me on has been one of revealing to me the areas that I still needed to grow in, and that my leadership journey is never going to end. And he's brought great leaders around me on our team that have leadership skills in certain areas that I don't have, and I've never had, it's been such a blessing to our business to embrace the differences on the team and embrace people who are complementary to my skill sets. And I'm not just tolerate it, but that is, if God's given you a vision to scale your business big, you can't just tolerate people of unique skill set. You have to embrace it and be like, I'm so glad that I'm not strong in that area. I'm so glad.
Were you like that in the beginning? Did you actually feel that way in the beginning, or did you have to get there?
None in the beginning. In the first 4 years, I consumed so much knowledge and sought it out so much, both secular and spiritual, that I thought that I was sufficient. I thought that I was good enough. I thought that I was skilled in everything. I thought that I was just the best leader. And then, I was able to realize through a lot of trials and through a lot of, again, people coming into our business that were supposed to be there, that, I needed to still grow as a leader. So the leadership journey, man, it's been wild, because when God gives you a new vision after being in business for 6 years, sometimes that can deter some really great people on your team that were in it for the initial vision. And then if the vision changes, you really start to run into some conflicts. I had so many internal conflicts of is this the right move? Did God really say to go multi-location? Because once he said go multi-location, well, hold on. That means standard operating procedures, processes. We need to have better data. We got to have better, meeting structures, review systems, all of that, which was not my skill set. Multi-location as a vision demanded that, right, in a lot of ways. And so the people that were on the team that loved the go with the flow, at least I thought they loved it. The entrepreneurial, which we still want to have some of that, but that
startup feel,
right? Change things whenever you want. Not a lot of structure and not a lot of accountability at the end of the day, which was my fault as a leader for not providing that. All of a sudden, wow, we need to create that. So it really felt, and I probably could have done this better, but for our team members that had been with us for a long time, it really was man, this is a shock. I don't know if I want to be going where this bus is going anymore.
Right.
It's more like a rocket ship at this point. I don't know. I'm not ready to hold on to this. So the past 6 to 12 months since this vision has become a reality, and we actually do have a second location now, it's been painful from the standpoint of a lot of people. We've lost more team members in the past year who, honestly, and it's the best thing for them too, they didn't want to go where we were going.
Right.
And, and we really had to encourage them along that journey and say, you know what, we believe in you. We're here for you, but this probably is the right way to go, is to part ways now. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride to say the least. Filled with a lot of good too.
I totally get it. Has the people dynamic been the toughest part in this for you?
I think the people component, and then for me personally, as the business has grown, sometimes I've found myself in this like, what do I even do now? Like, what do I do in the business? I don't know my role some days, because I went from being in the weeds all day, having so many people dependent on me, 7, 8, 9 people directly reporting to me. I'm their quote unquote direct leader, to now we've elevated other leaders. And then I kind of found myself on this island, which feels lonely at times, but I think that's also a choice. And I found myself like, okay, how can I still be using my gifts and fully involved with the people, with the team,
right,
and maximizing them and complimenting them, versus like, I don't need to be doing all the things anymore. So I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm on the back half of that transition and I'm in a better place with it now, but it really was for a while, like feeling like you're in the wilderness almost.
Listen, you and I have talked behind the scenes. Like, I totally understand.
That's right.
Going from a transition of being founder and CEO to no longer CEO, and that whole process. So I totally get it. What have been some of the like those God surprises where you're just like, man, I have no idea how only God in the midst of that? Tell me about some of those testimonies.
Oh, here's the first one that came to my mind. So in 2014, when we first opened our doors, this guy comes in the gym and applies to work at our gym. He had just dropped out of college, no plans. His plan and literally was, I'm going to go apply at this gym that just opened up and work at the front desk. So I'm like, this is kind of odd. Like, I don't know if I should trust this guy, but okay, well, we do need some help at the front desk. So come on, like, you can start working for us. And fast forward, in that interview, 2014, this guy, his name's Joe, asks me, hey, like, would I be able to buy into the business someday and become a partner? I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means. Maybe, but we just opened up, so we're not going to have those conversations right now. And Shae, fast forward to just this past September 2022, he officially became a partner.
So cool.
Now he's our chief operating officer. He oversees all the expansion and day-to-day operations. And that's one of those surprises, like, oh my gosh, God gave us this new vision first. He knew that I was not equipped to fulfill this vision by myself. Because if you told me to go out and run an expansion and do all those details, I mean, maybe me and you are similar in like the visionary, the like maybe supposed to stay on the whole like marketing side a little bit more. But man, so anyway, Joe becoming a partner in 2022 September has been like one of those, wow, God, like that's what you were doing all those years, developing.
Right, because like you can now look back and be like, wow. And he had vision. What did you say his name is, Joe?
Joe, yep.
So Joe had vision for that before you, and had vision around like the future before you even had the vision for the Lord about the expansion. And he'd already prepared a person.
That's right.
For that back in 2014.
Yep.
Isn't that wild?
Put that. Yep. That's perfect.
That's so good. So what are some of the things, like when you're sitting with the Lord now around, all the things, you're kind of finding your footing in terms of, how you're to be engaged and lead now when you're not the operator in the same way and all of those things. Mm-hmm. What are those conversations with the Lord like now? What's he speaking to your heart about? How is he stretching you? What's going on now?
Mm-hmm. He's showing me how I can be most useful to the business, even if it's not in the way that I would naturally be inclined to be, right? It's like he's saying, like, pick your spots and make them powerful. Right? So if I get a quarterly opportunity to speak life into the whole company with all parties involved, like that might be more powerful than if I stand up in front of the team and talk to them every week, right?
That's good.
Yeah, he's sharing that. He's telling me that I need to be more intentional about continuing to ensure that the culture and the initial vision, not vision from a standpoint of like, what are we going to do, but vision from a standpoint of what is this company supposed to be known for and what are we supposed to be about. So he's telling me right now, like, you need to be involved and more present to make sure that those things happen, right? Are we a company that believes in extreme generosity?
Yes.
Are we a company that pursues excellence in all we do? So it's kind of like our core values in a way. I guess like I own those at a company level, right? Our culture and our core values.
Yes.
But then it's like a layer deeper of like principles within those core values, right? And it's just going deeper and deeper and deeper with that, so that we don't just duplicate and dilute, right? That's the last thing.
Yes. Well, that's really good because that is so important because you could have that like really solid in one location, but then start another one and it not be, and it's different people, but yet still the culture and the environment of what PFP is about still should be able to be in every location that you have, even with different people. Right. So basically he's giving you that, like, that's still your role to steward aspects of that.
Yes.
Right now. Yep. That's good.
Exactly.
That's good. So what is, and by the way, what does that look like? So you were talking about like what, so kingdom culture for you guys in PFP. I heard extreme generosity. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what does that look like? What does that mean for you guys?
Yeah. So part of it is, again, the money's not ours to begin with. So it's asking, God, what do you want us to do with the profits of this business?
Right.
So he's given us a vision recently to give back a portion of our profits. But then aside from that, it's generosity towards our team members, both with our resources, but also our time.
Yeah.
Right. As leaders, like how much are we investing in them emotionally? And from that standpoint, given where the world's going today too, right? With, some cultural norms of people at work, it's like they're not getting that from their bosses, from their employers. And so being generous in that sense. And then, I mentioned some of the others, like we want to be known as, and we feel like God's called us to be a company that pursues excellence in all we do.
Yeah.
And the way that looks is when people are out there talking about us, like we think about this and we dream about it. Like people are out there saying, like those guys over there at PFP, like they leave no stone left unturned. Like everything they do, you can tell, like they really pay attention to the details.
Yeah.
And they leave it better than they found it. And so again, it's like being able to, and it's all about the people for us, right? We're a service-based business at the end of the day. So client-facing and team member-facing, it's all about the people for us. Like, there's no product involved. It's the people. And so, he's speaking to me in that way right now, and a whole bunch of other ways, Shae.
Which of the things that he's speaking about is the biggest stretch for you right now?
Is the biggest stretch for me right now.
Where the biggest discomfort is, but you're in it because, you're walking this thing out in faith and you're in it. You're all the way in. It's just a little bit uncomfortable.
It continues to be for me, believe it or not, like God has put inside of me like a really high tolerance for risk, not a lot of fear. And I think that stemmed into like, he's allowed me to have really open hands. Generosity is pretty easy for me in a lot of ways. So the way that it's showing up for me, interestingly enough, this might actually be a kind of like counter to what I just said, but it's that like releasing control of the business and trusting and allowing people to make mistakes, and it's leadership at the end of the day, right? Yeah. It's just he's like saying like, what would a great leader do? Right? Yes. Like in every moment of the day, like what would a great leader do? Sometimes I need to step in and make a point. Sometimes I need to pull back and let things unfold. Like I mentioned to you, once the second location opened up, it's 30 minutes away. We're not there all the time. All of a sudden we're like, oh, so that process wasn't strong. That process wasn't communicated. This procedure, clearly we didn't tell the leader about this one, like all these things. And my inclination is I got to jump in and save the day. I got to jump in and fix it. But no, like that's our COO. That's our general manager of that location. That's our headquarter levels positions. Like, so, to do the right thing for the business so that the vision becomes a reality, I need to be really intentional. I don't want to say careful, but I got to be really intentional as the leader, right? Like on what I do and how I act in those moments.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I love that. Now, one of the things that the Lord was creating space for with you is this message, because you have a book that's coming out, and on the front end you were talking about how this vision with the athletes in the beginning was focus a bit on kind of the physicality and helping them kind of reach their goals. But then you were realizing how big of a deal it is to be dealing with mindsets and, their souls, their emotions, all of those things. Talk to me about kind of where your focus is related to that in this book and what you're seeing and kind of the vision he has with you around that. Because I definitely, I have a she's not a middle schooler anymore. She's a high schooler now. But like, I can see with the kids now, it's just a I could say COVID did a number on them and COVID did do a number on the kids. But even before COVID, it was like COVID exacerbated the problem that was already in existence.
Yes.
Right. And as it relates to just like how they are emotionally and in their minds and just having all of those things. I see it between my own child and her peers. So like, what are you seeing and where are you going? All of that goodness.
Well, I'm about to go on a little rant, if that's okay.
Go for it. Bring it. Bring it.
So in 2022, athlete mental health plummeted like big time. Like we saw 5 college athletes in a matter of a month all take their own lives. And that pattern started to really hit headlines and became a bigger and bigger deal in 2022, more than in any other year. And so for PFP and for my mission, even my first book that I wrote, The Youth Truth, that was written to like address the issues in youth sports and help coaches and parents to better lead the athletes so that these problems didn't continue existing.
Right.
And so that was important. And then God had a point for that book. And so for PFP, we've always had mindset as this kind of differentiator for our gym. But in 2022, things got different and things changed to where, like I said, the athlete mental health crisis took on a whole new form and became a really big issue. So we had some companies reach out to us, say, like mental health companies in the area, and they knew us for the work we did with athletes on the mindset side. And they said, hey, how are you guys going to respond to this? I was like, I don't know. Like, I got to really think on this, pray on this. So we ended up having a huge event at our gym last year in June called the Take Back Control Movement. And the idea behind this event was to invite in all of the middle school, high school, college athletes from around the state. And it ended up being multiple states come in. We had over 200 of these kids come in to hear from myself, a couple of other sports psychologists, coaches in the area, and then 6 college athletes or former college athletes that had gone through serious mental health struggles, anxiety, depression, serious injuries that led to just all sorts of troubles mentally. And so all these people at that event spoke and poured into these kids. And the whole theme around it was, we can't point the finger at coaches right now.
Right.
We can't point the finger at parents. We can't blame society. Yet, yes, all these things are contributing to the young man or woman's mental health issues.
Yeah.
But unless we put the control back into their hands and start equipping and empowering these teenage kids to learn how to control their mindset and learn how to really take back control of their experience in life, unless we start to turn the attention that way, which that's a whole different ballgame, right? When you start talking about like, how do I help a young man or woman learn how to control their focus, what they focus on every day, what things mean to them, how to control their actions and reactions.
This is all Bible.
Right? How to control where they place their self-worth and identity. Like, unless we can do that, then, I mean, let's be honest, like, circumstances are always going to come upon us, right? You can't control the wind and the rain. You can only control how you respond to it. So it was like, that was the message God was telling me that these kids needed to hear. And so we did this event. It was incredible. So many stories came from it. So many kids who felt like, finally, it's not just about feeling a little bit freer mentally, which is nice. Like, now I actually know what I got to go do to be in control again.
Yeah.
Right? Be in control of my emotions and my thoughts. And so that was 2022. I was like, perfect. Wipe my hands clean of that. We're done with that. And then like a week later, it was like, God's like, okay, now you got to write the book. Right.
Like, that was just a catalytic event that you just did. Now I've got more.
Exactly. So he said, write a book. And I brought in these 6 college athletes to be contributors in the book. So they share their stories. And I keep telling people like what they wrote in the book is way more powerful than what I wrote. And when a college kid who's not just struggling mentally, but maybe the college kid that just wants to reach their next level of success, and they know it's all between the ears, right? It's all in their mindset. like when they read these stories of these college athletes, they're going to be so encouraged and blessed by them that anyway, I'm glad that God chose me to write the book, but the people that are behind this movement and that are pouring into it, like it's not just me. Like there's a lot of people that are making this thing happen. And so the book, it hasn't even launched yet, actually.
What's the title?
So it's called Athlete, I'm Talking to You. And then the subtitle is Take Back Control, the 7 Mindset Hacks to Dominate in Sports and Life.
Wow. That's really good. And it was just funny because as you were kind of talking through just like the various ways of equipping and all of those, I'm thinking of all these scriptures that are coming up to my mind. I'm like, basically you are taking kingdom concepts and applying them with the kids without scripture and, without, verse, chapter and verse. Yeah. But it's like, how are we helping them to essentially take their thoughts captive? How are we helping them to renew their minds? How are we helping them to reflect on things that are lovely, that are pure? All of those things. Like, right. Those are the things that are coming up as you were talking through that. But it's like, that's goodness. I love it. So you're not even sure exactly where all that's headed. You're in the beginning stages because you were surprised the book was even supposed to happen in the first place.
You're so funny because so now I wrote the book and I recorded the audiobook and I did all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, good to go. Well, I probably shouldn't make that mistake again, right? God's going to be like, that was just another catalyst. Here we go.
That's right. That's right. Like that was real cute, Andrew, but right. There's more. I love it, but that's exciting. And the thing is that you have the space for that because as you've been growing your capacity, growing your own capacity and your team's capacity, you have the ability to walk into, these next things while still doing the part that you're supposed to be doing with PFP.
That's right.
Listen, I feel you on your journey, man. I'm like virtual fist bump, like boom. I feel you. I love it. Well, I'm curious to know what encouragement would you have for somebody listening who is in this? They are going through what you're in the midst of, and also on the other side of aspects of where God's given them vision for expansion. They have one thing, and now they're supposed to duplicate. What encouragement would you want to give that person as they're trying to do that and walk that out with God?
I mean, simply put, just remember who God is. Like you might even be able to, you might think that you could even see the next 3 steps and none of those steps seem like you could handle them, or none of those steps seem like in your mind what should happen, right? Because you're like, well, no, like my strength set isn't here and we don't have the finances in the bank for this right now. And we don't have a leader that could go out and do that thing. Like nothing is adding up right now. But if God gives you a vision, then like he's going to blow your mind with what he can do. And so I learned, right? Like I had all those limitations. That was just me basically reciting what a lot of my limitations were mentally, right?
Can we talk about the testimony on the financial side then? What happened?
On the financial side? Yeah.
Talk about it. Tell us about it.
Which part?
You said you were just essentially walking through your thing. So what was your financial challenge that you walked through and how did God get you? Oh my gosh. How'd you work through the other side of that thing?
Yeah. So we went through a period between, I think it was April and November of last year where basically what had happened is in 2021, we had sold a bunch of sessions to people and they never used them. And we used to have this model that it was, well, whenever you want to use them, but they never expire.
Right.
And that's not good for the client, honestly, at the end of the day, because they have no accountability. They have no urgency to get in and do their workout. So it's like, anyway, we sold a bunch of sessions. Well, then it came to April of 2022 and we were like, wait a second, like we probably need to change this policy. It's not good to have all this liability on hand. And so for 6 months, we ripped the Band-Aid off. And those 6 months, a ton of people stopped their contracts, stopped paying us because they were going to make up their sessions. And so we're like, what do we do? Like, this is not good. Like revenue wasn't coming in. And then November hit and things started to look really, really good again, like really, really good again. And we were like, wow, like that was even better than we thought it was going to be. So that happened. And at the same time, like I mentioned to you, my new business partner bought into the business.
Right.
So boom, cash came in for that.
Love
And
it.
so things just started to unfold to where it was like, okay, maybe we can do this expansion, right? God's like,
Yes.
yeah, duh. Like, right. I had you the whole time. Maybe we can do it without like completely going into crazy debt. And so
Right.
that was, yeah, those were two of the things that happened where it was like, all right, we did the right thing. And then
Yes.
on the back end got rewarded.
You're like, I sweat a little bit, but
That's
we
right.
made it.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. But I love that encouragement that it's like, even in the midst of not being able to see how all the things are going to come together, it's like continuing to take just that each of those steps of faith and continue to, one step at a time, one step of faith
Right.
after the next step of faith, and trusting God to be God in the midst of all of it. That's what I heard you say.
That's it.
I love it. Dude, it was good to have you back. And I love this update. I'm excited to, keep up with how things are going with you and PFP and all the goodness. How do people connect with you? Like, where do they go to learn more about this book? Shout out PFP, however ways people can connect.
Yeah. So honestly, probably the best thing that's going to come from this book is a free athlete mindset diagnostic tool that we've created. It's taken us a while to create this thing, but we wanted something that a high school or a college student could pull up on their phone and be able to scroll and self-identify. It's a quiz. It's an assessment tool, and self-identify with these statements around mindset and mental health.
Nice.
Because kids nowadays, they've got trouble articulating how they're feeling and what they're thinking. So this tool is one of those, it's a good way for them to be able to start doing that. And then afterwards, it gives them a bunch of free resources on how you can start taking steps to strengthen your mindset, to get mentally healthy. So that tool is probably going to be the best thing that they can get.
Awesome.
And that's going to be on my website, andrewjsimpson.com/free-mindset-quiz. Got it memorized.
And we'll make sure that we link that up. And the target age, what's the age appropriateness for that assessment?
Yeah, it's going to be probably a really mature middle schooler, like 8th grade is the earliest, I would say, all the way up through college.
Nice.
Yep.
I love it. Andrew, thanks so much for joining me again today. So good to chat with you.
Thank you, Shae. Appreciate you and all you do.
I really enjoyed an opportunity to catch up and do an update chat with Andrew Simpson. And now we're going to catch up with my dear husband and our CEO, Phil Bynes. What's going on, Phil?
I'm well. You're going to catch up? You all up in the mustard and you can't catch up.
Oh my gosh.
That was corny.
Yeah, that was a total dad joke.
Oh, well, I am a dad, and I am the father of the movement too, so I'll be excused.
Yes, you are. Well, what takeaways do you have with my conversation from Andrew?
All right. The first takeaway I have from your conversation with Andrew is this: embrace the people on your team with a unique skill set, especially if it's different from yours, because they can help you close the gaps you would not have seen because they think differently from you, right?
For sure.
Yeah. The second point I have here is pay attention to the team members that have a vision beyond their current role. They just may become the team member that grows to occupy key roles in the future. And so that came from the story about the gentleman that came to the gym and said he saw himself working at the front desk, right? And he didn't have any other plans besides that. But when he got there, he was talking about, do you have any plans of open other facilities and having franchises? So he was already thinking about franchises, and he was just working as a front desk person. So that's where that comes from. And the third one I have here is when your team grows in size and you have other leaders, it's okay to not have a lot to say. Just pick your spots to ensure whenever you speak, it is impactful. Right?
Yes. And I'm learning and growing in that on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Those are great takeaways, great leadership, points there. And it's been fun just kind of tracking that journey that he's been on and growth, and will continue to. So really good stuff. All right. Those who are listening here, if this is your first time listening to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur podcast, first of all, welcome. Glad that you're listening. But also, I want to make sure that you know that there are a lot more resources available to you in this Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur movement, even beyond this podcast. And there's one that I want to specifically introduce to you right now, which is a free PDF resource. It's called Seek First the Kingdom, 12 Powerful Questions to Connect You with God's Mind and Heart in Business. And so this is basically just a tool that you can read and then ask these questions of the Lord, to inquire of the Lord, to seek first the kingdom concerning your business, because it really is important for us to really engage his mind and his heart concerning how we show up in the marketplace. So regardless of kind of where you are in your journey of business, I do want to invite you to engage God with these 12 questions. And so you can head over to meetingwithgod.biz. That's meetingwithgod.biz, and download that at no cost to you whatsoever. At least no financial cost to you. Mr. Bynes, before we go, is there anything that you want to add?
Nothing.
All right.
Nothing left to add.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll talk to you more next week on the next episode of the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we encourage you to subscribe and spread the word. And don't forget, you can gain access to even more resources, plus a thriving community of fire starters by visiting our website at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com.